Welcome back to the Faith and Ecology podcast, an initiative of the Jesuits for Climate Justice, Faith in Action at COP30 campaign. I am your host, Daniela, and on the 7th episode, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the third call of our campaign, setting clear targets for a fair energy transition that aims to reduce CO2 emissions, considering historical responsibilities, respecting human rights, especially Indigenous rights, valuing and protecting nature, and prioritizing sustainable livelihoods over profit-driven models. Our guest experts will explain exactly what critical raw materials are, and as COP30 nears, the role that they play for mineral-rich countries from the global majority at the negotiations, the moral duties of the global community and corporations, and how faith-based organizations can foster equitable partnerships that promote climate justice while protecting human rights. So to start off is Mark Campanale. He is the founder of the Carbon Tracker Initiative, a nonprofit think tank known for pioneering the concepts of stranded assets and the carbon bubble in the fossil fuel sector. Mark also founded the Planet Tracker, focusing on nature and biodiversity through financial markets. With over 25 years of experience in sustainable finance, he has co-founded some of the first responsible investment funds and serves on advisory boards, including the GFANZ and Faith Invest. Mark is a visiting lecturer at the University of Cambridge and the winner of the 2021 Ceres Trillium Capital Lifetime Achievement Award for Sustainable Finance. Thank you so much for joining us. So my question for you is, what are critical raw materials? What is their role in the just energy transition? And how are global markets and financial systems involved in this process?
A lot of electrical devices depend on core components that derive from critical minerals. We know them as nickel, aluminium, lithium, copper, silver, and these minerals are essential to the global clean energy revolution. What's happening is the world is moving away from burning fossil fuels to generating power and transport from electricity. So, you don't need to put oil in a car. You can drive it using electricity. You don't need to burn coal or gas to power your energy system. You can use solar and wind. So we're transferring the old energy system into a new energy system, but we need the components. We need the raw materials, and that's where critical minerals come in. We're going to need to build solar systems and wind power systems and battery storage systems, and that is where we need critical, essential materials. 2/3 of the world's population live in energy importing countries. Right across sub-Saharan Africa, you've only got a handful of countries that own significant oil resources like Algeria or Nigeria, and the rest of sub-Saharan Africa is having to import their fuels from other countries. Now, this dependency means that you have to find hard currency. You have to find dollars to pay for your oil because oil is priced in dollars and it's traded internationally. You have to pay the global price for oil, and people will sell it at the global price to make as much money as they can. And this dependency creates its own problems. And so what many countries now realize, China's a great example of this, India's another example. What they're realizing is that energy independence, energy freedom means coming off fossil fuels. China, it's electrifying the world, but of course it's electrifying itself. It's building vast amounts of wind and solar, particularly solar panels, and is powering its industrialization using renewables. So what does it mean for the global south? Well, to me, it means giving yourself economic freedom. Instead of importing energy from the other side of the world, you can manufacture your own energy. What is oil anyway? Plants which have decomposed over millions of years. They've become a fuel, an oil, and we're digging up from one side of the world and transporting to the other side of the world. Well, actually, where do plants generate themselves from? They come from sunlight, but we can capture the sunlight at source. When you're digging for your critical minerals, these are in countries that are forested or there's indigenous people living on those lands, and there is unfair representation and negotiation between the people who live on the land and work on the land and the companies or the governments coming in who want to take their critical minerals. And that today we have a just and equitable process for developing these minerals. And some people are arguing that this is a reason why we shouldn't have an energy transition because of the damaging critical minerals. Now, my answer to that is that we should have a proper, equitable share of the wealth from these critical minerals to actually create endowments for communities which have the benefit of it. But it's not like we'll be digging up minerals for another 100 years. Some of our good friends at places like EMBA, a think tank like Carbon Tracker, have done some analysis, and they think that we could electrify the world with only about 10 years of more extraction or development of critical minerals, because once you've got your copper out or your gold out, it's infinitely recyclable. That's the beauty of these critical minerals. Unlike coal or oil, you've burnt it and it's gone forever. Once you've got and extracted your lithium or your copper, you can recycle it and will be able to restore the forests and the land that has been disruptive and return it to its natural state and have the critical minerals that we need to build this amazing clean air and clean water future once people are using electricity instead of burning dirty fossil fuels.
Thank you, Mark. And as you rightly put it, it is the voices from the field that should take precedent. So here with us now is our second guest, representing exactly those voices. Father Jacques Nzumbu is a Jesuit priest from the Democratic Republic of Congo who has 27 years of diverse academic and apostolic experience. He holds degrees in international affairs, governance, and Ignatian leadership, and specializes in the geopolitics of strategic minerals critical to the just energy transition. Currently, he is completing his doctoral thesis on the DRC's energy transition dilemma. He has worked extensively on natural resource government, conflict minerals, and responsible mining. His international advocacy includes engaging with the German automotive industry and parliament, as well as campaigns for a just transition in Canada. Father Jacques continues his ministry in the Kikwit region of the DRC. What exactly is the role that mineral-rich countries from the global majority play in the context of the just energy transition in spaces such as COP?
Mineral-rich countries in the global south contribute to the overall well-being of humanity, but at what cost? Those countries are playing an increasingly important role in the transition to an increasingly carbon-free world, aiming for ecological harmony across the entire living ecosystem. The impacts of climate change affect all countries around the world. Southern countries, such as those in Africa and my country, DRC, are particularly affected and vulnerable. So, conference of the parties, such as COP30s, are a unique opportunity to decide on our common future as humanity and what kind of planet we want to leave to our children in the face of climate change. The mineral-rich countries of the South will be key players in this decision-making process. This transition cannot no longer be made at the expense of the poorest. Southern countries must defend their right to benefit from transition technologies that depend on critical minerals. They can draw inspiration from the OPEC Plus model to join forces and defend their rights and their vision of development and mining in major forums such as COP30s. The full integration of African countries in the value chains of green technology, batteries, and transition technologies must be a priority. We know that multiple energy sources and energy systems, as well as our modes of production and consumption, are contributing to the acceleration of the environmental and ecological crisis. So a certain transition in our lifestyle, production, and consumption patterns is necessary to decarbonize our economy and ensure the sustainability of our lifestyle and our common home, planet Earth, with all its ecosystems. Global South-rich countries are very important in this transition. We are in the center of transition, but at the same time, we are on the periphery of the benefits of this transition. We need a new global transition partnership focused on decarbonizing green technologies and critical minerals. We have to build a new energy transition model that can be a circular model. So we need mass cooperation between the South and the North and the West country to build this kind of circularity of transition technologies gains, because the gains of green technologies are concentrated all in the north, in the west. The government of rich countries and companies that profit from transition technologies, are called upon to improve cooperation with the natural resource rich countries of the South. First of all, they have to establish compliance standards that ensure respect for human rights, the environmental and governance, that encourage investment that enable mining transformation in Africa and in the global South. They have to prioritize cooperation over confrontation with local communities. So we need more and more cooperation and a new deal that in that global transition partnership, because people are still suffering in the global South. Meanwhile, the country is giving a lot of minerals for the global economy, for decarbonization, and for the green energy transition. For the international civil society, is called upon to support the advocacy of Southern NGOs on human rights and environmental protection in the extraction of critical minerals. To this end, partnerships are important. The global southern countries rich in natural resources, they have right to benefit from this kind of transition. But the problem is that we are not integrated in the all supply chain and value chains of batteries, of green technologies. We are just giving more and more raw materials without value hand for the country. There are no add value for most of our countries in the global south. So this is not justice for those who are suffering in this country.
Thank you, Father Jacques, for that powerful testimony. Let's dive a little bit deeper into that with our final guest, Dr. Séverine Deneulin. She is the Director of Integral Human Development at the Laudato Si Research Institute, an Associate Fellow at the Oxford Department of International Development. Her research is at the intersection between development studies and the Catholic social tradition, and brings faith traditions into dialogue with the social sciences on matters of global socioeconomic development and sustainability. She has published extensively on social and environmental justice issues with a focus in Latin America, and is currently working with the Catholic Peacebuilding Network at the University of Notre Dame on a project on the Catholic Church and mining. Thank you so much for joining us, Seb. My first question for you is, why is it crucial from a faith perspective to enforce strict human rights due diligence along the entire supply chain of critical raw materials essential for the energy transition?
Thank you for that question. As you know, part or central to the Christian faith is that every human being has been made in the image of God. So respecting human dignity, respecting human rights is honoring God. So as an individual, I may consume a mobile phone or have solar panels on my roof, which has involved people mining for its components in unsafe and dangerous conditions or very low wages or in ecological contamination. But I am not directly causing harm to these people and to the ecosystems where these minerals are mined, but I am indirectly participating in these economic structures which do undermine human rights and destroy our common home. So in the case of protecting indigenous land rights and ensuring transparent environmental impact assessments. So these are two areas where the Catholic Church is already playing a very important role. The importance of what is called the right to say no, and to ensure the right of local communities to free, prior, and informed consent before any project starts. Mining companies very often manipulate communities. They offer so-called gifts that pitch residents against each other. So they promise that the mining project will bring jobs, it will bring social services, it will bring infrastructure. But behind these promises, the truth is that the mining project will give only temporary jobs, only low-skilled jobs. And then when the project ends, because the mine will be depleted one day, local communities will be left with nothing, with no jobs and ecological destruction. So one of our participants in our consultations mentioned the case in Colombia of a local community who has accepted a mining project because they were offered access to electricity. But in exchange for that electricity, what they found is that their water was polluted and they had to buy water in trucks if they wanted to continue living on their territory. So here, the Catholic Church can play a very important role in awareness raising and education, that the so-called gifts that companies are providing to local communities are not real benefits. They are short-term and they hide the more important consequences of mining, which is ecological destructions and human rights abuses. Companies are required by law before a project is starting to make an environmental impact assessment. But it is the company itself that is making the assessment, not an independent body. So they often manipulate the data to portray the project as having a very limited environmental and social impact, while the truth is very different. And so this is why Catholic organizations, universities, often in collaboration with other actors, are making these independent environmental and social impact assessments to show the real consequences of mining. When mining destroys that integrity of creation, when it undermines the dignity of each human person, we have to speak out as a Catholic community. And so that's why we have to be involved in making sure that companies respect human rights along the entire supply chain.
My next question for you would be, how can Catholic social teaching, these faith principles you mentioned, but also faith-based organizations effectively support and empower these mineral-rich communities from the global majority that are very vulnerable?
First, I would like to challenge calling communities who happen to live in territories whose subsoil is rich in minerals as mineral-rich communities. It is the water of rivers that gives life, not the gold. What makes these communities rich is their ecosystems. In the rivers is the forest, not the minerals in the subsoil. Let me say that there is not such a thing as a just and sustainable mining practice at a large scale. Only artisanal mining using ancestral methods could be viewed as just and sustainable. And so the question is how to limit the damage, and especially when the mining is finished, what to do with the toxic waste, what to do with the water that has been polluted, what to do with the forests that have been cut down. I would say we need to educate and train local communities so that they can make free and informed decisions about their lives. They need to be aware that the promises, jobs, that the promises of better infrastructure is just a mirror, is not reflecting the reality, the true cost of mining. And second, we need to campaign for a reduction in energy and material consumption and to promote joyful sobriety. We cannot mine ourselves out of the climate crisis. We have to reduce our consumption. And this is something that all the churches of the Global South are advocating. And third, it's about promoting agroecology and other forms of livelihoods that are based on reciprocity with nature, so that local communities can have viable alternatives to mining as a form of social and economic development. Because far too often these mining projects occur in very deprived communities, so they can easily be lured about the benefits of mining. So it's about how to then promote these alternative livelihoods so that people can live better life, less economically and socially deprived, but also in ways that are kept in harmony with nature.
Thank you for having joined us on the 7th episode, where we unpacked the importance of critical raw materials in shaping the future of the just energy transition. Mark painted a vision of these elements as the lifeline to clean energy and decarbonization, while not shying away from addressing the deep social and environmental challenges that these processes carry. Father Jacques lifted the voices of the mineral-rich nations, such as that of the Democratic Republic of Congo, reminding us that their rights and the urgent call for justice must be forged through a system of global solidarity, and ending with Sev, who wove faith and human dignity into the fabric of responsibility towards community empowerment at both the local and global level. As community activist Penina Nalante puts it, for my community, energy is more than electricity. It is about survival, dignity, and fairness. It means schools that can run, hospitals that can serve, and homes that can be warm. But it must come in a way that respects our rights and identity. So don't forget to join us next week as we explore how faith and spirituality can deepen our response to the climate crisis, revealing how integral ecology offers a transformative vision that unites care for one another with care for our common home in the lead up to COP30.